Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I'm Cynthia Lee Shang, Jefferson Parish President. Very honored to have with us Congressman Steve Scalise, who just was able to join us. We want to thank you for that. Sheriff of Jefferson Parish, Joseph Lapinto. Our Director of Emergency Management Services, Joe Valiente. From Entergy, we have Patrick Hamby. You're going to be a big speaker, Patrick, because I know everybody's anxious. No pressure. No pressure. Director of Public Works, Mark Drews. Our Chief Administrative Assistant, Sarah Babcock. Our Chief of East Bank Consolidated, David Tibbetts. I think Brian Adams is in Grand Isle, right? Director of West Bank Fire Services is actually in Grand Isle. I'm happy to give their assessment. Our Council Chairman, Councilman Scott Walker. Ricky Templett, Councilman at Large for Division A, is also in Grand Isle. Our Councilman for District 1, Marion Edwards, I just got off the phone with him. He has been driving the district all day, assessing everything. Councilman for District 2, Dino Bonanno. Councilman for District 3, Byron Lee. Councilman for District 4, Dominic Impastato. Councilman for District 5, Jennifer Van Rankin. And Louisiana Representative Kyle Green is also joining us today. Anybody else come in? Did I miss anybody? Okay. So let me give an update on today's activities, which a lot was done today, as could be expected. This is just the second day after after the storm has passed. Certainly the concentration is still on search and rescue, primarily in Lafitte. These operations continued today with an additional 15 people that were rescued. We're working with Mayor Tim Kerner Jr. I'm happy to report that they're saying that the water went down significantly. It is still not removed. There's still water in houses, but on the road, much of that water has gone down. The next step we need to do, obviously people want to go back into their homes. The homes are still filled with water. We need to help them dewater their community. So we're assisting with this request. We've made the request to the state for additional resources to dewater this community and add additional pumps. Grand Isle, I'm happy to report that a caravan went to Grand Isle today by road. They were luckily able to get through. This is Councilman Ricky Templett. They picked up, I think Mayor Carmodell was actually already there. Our Fire Services Director, we assigned him to this mission, Brian Adams, along with many members of their staff. We also sent our videographer from the Public Information Office so we could get some good video of what they're seeing. They began an assessment of the island's damages. They had a lot of supplies with them. Sheriff Lapinto also brought supplies and helicoptered in supplies for those that are still on the island. I just got off the phone with Brett Lawson, who's a member of Councilman Templett's staff, with a report. Unfortunately, he says he believes the island is uninhabitable. There's 3 feet of sand across the entire island. This is a result of 10 to 12 breaks in the levee on the Gulf side. 100% of the structures are damaged. 40% of the structures, they estimate, are either completely destroyed with just, the piling showing, or maybe just a wall standing up on that building. The only people on the island are the mayor, the police chief, some first responders. Obviously, there is no means of communication on Grand Isle. There want to be, and they asked our public information officer to work with them. We will be setting up there's no communication, so we will be setting up some means for the residents of Grand Isle to understand when they can get back and every step of the way to recovery. So we will be setting that up for you in a unique way, whether it's on the website or some other means of communication, to get this information out to you, because we know you want to know what's going on. And there is a strong odor of natural gas on the island, so that is not good. We are still in the mode of encouraging our residents to leave here if they are able. We do not have the services that a basic community has. Just a reminder to everyone who is not here, the electricity is not functioning. Our sewer and water systems are extremely fragile. Mark Drews is going to give you an update on that. There's lines at the gas stations. We're having issues with even some of our fuel, making sure our employees have fuel. And I'm glad to hear that I-10 was back up today going out of the city. So that's an indication that people who are here have decided that these are not conditions to be living in, and they're going to more comfortable locations. away from here and giving us the time that we need to put us back together again. So we are under a nighttime curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and that is going to continue through the weekend. That will be going on until 6 a.m., essentially Monday morning. And we're going to reassess at that time where we are, so stay tuned for that additional information regarding the curfew. I've been on the phone with many members of our congressional delegation. Congressman Scalise and I spoke earlier. Senator Cassidy reached out. Cedric Richmond, who is very close to President Biden, reached out to me. We have been in touch with state agencies. There is a lot of information going on about coordinating assets and additional resources to come to our area. They have not yet arrived, but we are expecting help in the next few days. Remember, and we can be very impatient. Trust us, those of us who are here could be impatient, but it's difficult. Supply chains are difficult, and the difficulty that we have living here is also the difficulty that people have trying to bring resources in here. The roads are blocked, no electricity, difficult communication. So we definitely expect help to be on the way. Those conversations are going on at every level of government, private companies, nonprofits. So many people have reached out to us. I promise you, all day today, these conversations have been going on really since the storm passed. However, many people today, now, yesterday, tomorrow, have immediate needs that we cannot meet because much of our help is not here yet. This is why we have set up a partnership with many of our government agencies to address these immediate needs for these people for the next few days or until we don't need these services anymore. So we set up PARD at a recreational facility that's 80 Arpent Road in Marrero, the Marrero site. You all know PARD Playground. So we processed people who were evacuated from Lafitte to PARD, and other people who have needs can go to PARD. Sarah Babcock's going to give you much more information about this. I've been to PARD twice today to watch the operation. I'm very comfortable with it. This is for people who have, again, people who were rescued from Lafitte, people who have immediate medical needs, but not necessarily, hospital type of needs, not that urgent, not that critical, but they're medically vulnerable. People who just can't stand the hot temperature. We don't have air conditioning here. We lack the basic services. Or people who just want to get out of here and don't have the means to do so. You don't have to have a specific reason. You can just show up. You will be placed on a bus, and you will be taken to Alexandria, where there is a mass shelter there where you can have air conditioning, food, water, and more importantly, the medical services, a deep level of medical services that we can't provide certainly here in local government, but we don't want to put onto our hospital systems that are already dealing with so much on reserve power, questions about water. We don't want to put these additional pressure on our hospital system. So I know people do not like to leave home, but if any of these situations apply to you, you will want to get to a more comfortable place. And everybody who was at PARD today, when they were getting on the bus, they knew they were on their way to a more comfortable living. And everybody was anxious to get there. So if you need transportation to PARD, the transit department is providing you that transportation. You need to call our Emergency Operations Center at 504-349-5360 to arrange for the transportation. I was at the operation twice today. I went earlier in the morning to check it out, and then I was there when the buses were showing up. So I'm very comfortable with this operation, and I'm grateful for the assistance they have. I want to thank, and I'm going to forget, I didn't write down the partner agencies, our Recreation Department, our state, Louisiana Department of Health, DOTD, Transportation, DCFS, Animal Shelter, and Louisiana National Guard, who was providing security services there. I know I'm forgetting somebody, Sarah. You think I got everybody? Okay. So a lot of people, our Recreation Department too, a lot of people came together to put this operation together very quickly, and we're processing people. If we need to flex out, if this operation gets too big for this location and we need to expand it, we will flip it to a larger location. So there is no concern there. Sarah is going to give you more details about this operation shortly. So I want to thank everybody for the assistance in getting this stood up. Again, as I mentioned, additional resources are coming to our area. Many churches, private institutions, private companies, nonprofits have reached out. We are coordinating with the government agencies, and we look forward to the day where we'll be able to better take care of our people, but it's not that time right now. That is why we need the state's assistance to get help from Alexandria. We have requested through the state a point of distribution on the East Bank and the West Bank. Those sites will distribute water, ice, and MREs, and Tarps will also be available. The logistics are still very much being worked on. We'll make that announcement as soon as possible. I believe that site is going to be at the Ilario on the West Bank and the Shrine on Airline at the East Bank. So more information, look for in the morning for more information to be coming out on that, this distribution. Transit is only operating paratransit services for confirmed dialysis appointments. Normal transit operations will resume when roads are clear and the lights are operational. So please know we are working for the paratransit services. For everyone still here, please separate your garbage from your storm debris. These are two separate contracts. You have to separate the regular household garbage that you were producing pre-storm with the debris from this storm. Our debris pickup contract has been activated, and areas are being assessed now in anticipation of starting the debris pickup. Debris sites are being staged, and the trucks are being certified, so pickup is scheduled to begin on Monday, September 6th. Now, as far as curbside trash pickup, the down utility lines and the inoperable traffic signals at major intersections create safety hazards for garbage trucks trying to access the residential streets. So because of this and all the staffing issues that we had brought on by the evacuation of many people and the lack of critical services, we expect curbside trash pickup of garbage will resume on a limited basis, obviously because of the road access we have, on Monday, September 6th. And then curbside recycling is going to have to be suspended until further notice. We have got to put our priorities and our resources on the regular garbage pickup. The River Birch landfill, we reopen on Thursday to accept waste. Jefferson Parish landfill has no power and sustained damage and water intruded into the building, so further assessment of this facility is underway. Entergy update, we're going to get that from Patrick Hamby. The water update, Mark's going to give you more details on the repairs made today on our water system. The boil water advisory is still in effect. Remember, that means you use boiled or bottled water for drinking, ice making, brushing your teeth, washing dishes, and the food preparation. And then Mark will also give you, remember our sewer system is operated by an electrical system, which we don't have. So the water that you use in your home goes into our sewer system. So we want to limit the use of that water into your home. Everybody has a part in that because we're going to have sewer backups and they'll be right by your house. So please be mindful of this. As I mentioned many times before, now we got another problem on our hands with the sanitation issue. So please be very careful and limit your use of the water that you use in your home that goes into the sewer system. This is the other issue, and Sheriff, I don't even know if I was able to brief you on this yet. Spoke to Nick Calley from the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority on the West Bank. He had reports of people going over our levee system to launch their boats to go check on their camps, and it is damaging our levee system. This is completely unacceptable. This is illegal. The levee system was an investment by the people of Jefferson Parish, the state, and the federal government. It worked for us as designed. We cannot ruin this levee system during hurricane season, especially now everything we've been through. It will be illegal. We will call law enforcement on you. You will be cited, okay? I want to thank our council member staff. Sarah needed some help today checking on many people, doing a wellness check, and our council office staff stepped to it, and that was also going on today, and they will also give you an update on their efforts today. So I am honored to have with us Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman Scalise comes bearing gifts. So he brought a megawatt, a big generator, like a big generator, that we put immediately to our West Bank water plant, which will help with the water pressure. So thank you for not just coming here, but coming with aid and assistance for us. And I want to give Congressman Scalise an opportunity to talk to you. So thank you so much, Congressman Scalise.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. And there are a number of initiatives going on, both from the federal level, state, and local government. Big concern, obviously, is getting power back on. I know there's still some search and rescue operations. Yesterday, a lot of time was spent trying to help evacuate some of the hospitals in the lower lying area. Specifically, Terrebonne General took a lot of damage during the storm, and you saw where the eye came in and Port Fourchon, but you saw a lot of damage to some of those lower lying hospitals. As you can imagine, not only do they have physical damage, they don't have regular power, although every hospital, and I know I've talked to the heads of the hospitals for the entire region, every hospital does have backup and enough power supply, meaning most of them are fueled by some kind of diesel or oil generators, so they're able to get the fuel that they need to keep their generators going, and we made sure that that's something that is not a concern, but power in general is a big concern. So we're trying to get a lot of generators in. We're getting offers from the private sector. We're pushing really hard to get FEMA to bring in more generators, and that's another issue I know Parish President Chang has been working on with the council. The other parishes in the region are pushing as well. There are a few different issues that we're working with FEMA on. They have started the individual assistance program. So people can go online right now and apply for individual assistance. For all of us who went through Hurricane Katrina, we know that there were a number of different programs underneath FEMA that helped people in the recovery process. This is the very beginning of that process, and people, as they realize they might not have power for days or weeks, they're looking for other places to go stay. There is help for you. You can go to scalise.house.gov on my website. We have a number of links to some of those sites. You can apply online for that FEMA individual assistance. Something else we've been talking to FEMA a lot about is getting the Blue Roof program back up and running. This was something incredibly successful and effective during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. So many people had roof damage. It's a program where the FEMA went through the Corps of Engineers, and the Corps ultimately contracted to get blue roofs on people's houses that had damage, so that while they're trying to wait to get contractors to actually get the roofs fixed, there is still rain coming, as we saw last night. And you want to make sure you can try to at least get those holes covered so you can limit the damage that's already inside your house as people are starting that process of gutting their houses. So we're urging FEMA to get that program up and running. It could happen any minute. As soon as we find out word from FEMA, we will let you know. That would be something that would apply to every parish that was affected. So we're pushing hard to get that done. We'll let you know as soon as it happens. As Cynthia also mentioned, we're getting incredible offers from a lot of faith-based groups. Again, something we saw after Katrina, where faith-based groups stepped up. As the federal and state and local agencies are working together, you had a lot of other neighbors. You know, our neighbors are helping each other right now, which is so important. It's something we've always seen. It's one of the strengths of the people of South Louisiana. We go through tough storms. We come together and we pull together and we help each other out. But there are people all around the country that want to help us out too. And I know I've been fielding a lot of those calls. Yesterday I was working with a group called Samaritan's Purse. They're a group that works all around the world. They've offered to bring 3 different sites in southeast Louisiana to set up really soon to start bringing relief supplies to families. And that's something we're working with a number of groups like that to do. So as we're working with the federal agencies to get relief, obviously Governor Edwards, through the state, we've been talking about a number of those things. Cedric Richmond and I spoke this morning, as Cynthia did. We've been in daily contact with each other. He's the main point person for the president, and they're offering any help they can that we need. Obviously, he knows this region really well. He knows the needs. We talked very extensively about power supply. We talked about the hospitals. We talked about the recovery efforts. And look, there is going to be a need for a massive recovery effort to get people back in their homes, to get our communities back built up. Just like we saw with the Road Home program after Katrina, the first step is to get a CDBG program working, Community Development Block Grants. It would be very flexible money for parishes to start getting things moving, and then there are other things that come after that. One thing we need to do to get that ball rolling is to get a supplemental appropriations bill. So we have put that request in, and hopefully we will see Congress take action soon to start the first stage. I'm sure there will be more than one step in this process, but we want to start that process. And just so everybody knows, look, we all take care of each other. We're here in Jefferson Parish. We take care of our neighbors here in southeast Louisiana. We know our friends in southwest Louisiana are still struggling too from Hurricane Laura. And so we're not going to forget them. If there's a supplemental request, we want to make sure that they are also going to be included in this. But the main thing is to make sure that people can get back in their houses, to make sure that communities can get back open. That the parishes, as they're working to get power back up, can get the sewer systems and water systems up. So everybody is working together to get all of these resources out there. Loss of life and making sure we take care of people's livelihoods is the first and most important thing. But then now getting power back up, making sure that people have the ability to come back home to rebuild their communities. That's the next step. I know we're all working together to get that done, and we'll continue pulling together, and we will get through this like we've gotten through other disasters. This was a really bad storm, and for many people, worse than Katrina. The flooding, of course, was the worst part of Katrina, and the loss of life came from that. The levees did hold, but with the massive storm, a Category 4 for hours, then a Category 3 for hours, really pummeling this region for a long time, it's going to be a long recovery. And so we're in this for the long haul. We're going to keep working together, and we're going to get through this. And with that, turn it back to you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Next up, who's been very busy today, obviously, with him and his team, is the sheriff, our sheriff of Jefferson Parish, Sheriff Joseph Lapinto.
Thank you, Madam President. We had a pretty busy day today. We started this morning with our first priority of trying to get down to Grand Isle. We had reports from them last night that it was short on food and water, obviously cut off from the rest of the world with no communications. So we had 3 different plans in place, all 3 which we're able to make happen. Our first plan was to try to go down by road with the caravan. Road was not open first thing this morning. We were contacting the chief down there in Port Fourchon, Chief Kindler, in order to make sure where it was. It was down to the cutoff, obviously working in both directions to get down there, but wasn't available first thing. We had a second plan in order to take our boat, get it past Lafitte. The water has receded some to us be able to use our high water vehicles to get a boat launched and be able to take additional supplies from there. And our third option was to take our Huey helicopter with just enough supplies with water, sandwiches, stuff like that, so they could eat to make that happen. So we had the window of weather that was available for us to go. A helicopter took off this morning, was able to deliver those supplies down there, get a little bit of assessment of what was going on before they came back. Good news is between that time, the road was able to be cleared enough for us to be able to get some trucks down there. So we have another convoy of probably 15 to 20 different deputies, general services personnel to assess certain damages to get our command center back up and running. We're bringing another 600 gallons of jet fuel so I can have our operations from the air to be a little bit more convenient for us to be able to get down there with individual things to really try to get communications back open. So we'll have that set up hopefully by tomorrow where they can clear an area. We landed on the beach today with a helicopter, but hopefully be able to clear an area where we have the ability to refuel. And so that should open up some things in the near future. Our normal calls for service have continued to increase with the amount of people. Most of them revolved around gas stations today. As anybody that is here, there's very few gas stations that are open, very difficult to get gas. The ones that are open have lines that are, when I mean blocks, I'm talking about dozens of blocks long. You might as well get in line and get your gas and get back in line before you run out again. The ability for us to refuel is very difficult here, whether that's generators, cars, or anything else. And, you know, that's why we told people have enough supplies, and that means enough gasoline if you're going to stay for a storm, to expect, 3, 5, 7 days. And we're on day 2. So I'm not really feeling sorry for anybody because of it. People are running out of gas. I had to assist someone today on the Huey P. Long Bridge that went to check on somebody's house and ran out of gas. And, we parked the car on the side of the road and I brought him to where he needed to go. But those are the types of calls that we're getting, a lot of disturbances of, people trying to cut in line at gas stations and those type of things, pulling guns because of those disturbances. You name it, we're having it today. Again, no major calls for looting. We have made several arrests, probably a dozen or so, over the last 2 days. We'll continue to make those arrests if that's the case, but it's not something that's major. We had a few different stores that are broken into, but I wouldn't say that's widespread. Asking people to be careful. The medical calls are outrageous. The amount of medical services that are here are very taxed and limited. We had one person that was trying to get into another person's friend's home to clear out the freezer. They don't have a key, so they're going to break into a perfectly good home and break the window. After they break the window, they cut their hand, cut the artery, have to call for an ambulance. Well, now the freezer's still full, still going to stink, and he's at the hospital. Those are things that we don't think about, but are happening on a regular basis, and our people are having to go handle those calls for something that can wait. We've got to be smart. We've got to think. Don't tax the first responders that are out there. They're dealing with the same problems that you are. They have the same problems to their houses. hoses that have to be repaired. Some things can wait. Don't take extra chances that you don't need to do. Again, we want you home for the people that are out of town. We want you to be here. I'll try to make different posts to tell you exactly how it is. If you deal with it, guess what? You may have to deal with it. I can't be the police and stop everybody from being here. It just doesn't work that way. But the situation is not great. We know in these storms that we're going to get additional supplies. Yesterday was just an assessment. Today was us to try to figure out where we're going to put stuff. Tomorrow we're going to have more supplies that are going to come in to try to get us to where we can handle a larger population being here. As I've said, be patient. Patience can work for a lot of us that are here. Don't call me on day 2 and ask where you get gas. You may be able to get it somewhere, but this is day 2. Give us a couple days for us to be able to get stuff in, and we're going to get you back home. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Joe Valiente, our Director of Emergency Management Services. Joe?
Good evening, everyone. So we've been spending most of the day preparing for the pod sites that we're going to open tomorrow. We've also been assisting with the efforts in Lafitte and in Grand Isle. We're staging water and MREs and supplies down there to assist with the recovery process that will begin shortly. One of the things that I want to mention, and I'll keep it brief, is that I was looking over the complaint sheets today that was coming in through the EOC manager's desk, and I noticed there was abundance of calls and complaints about power poles, utility poles that were cracked in half, utility poles that had snapped and were laying on the ground, and wires that were on the ground. And then I noticed something that I thought was strange, 2 calls where vehicles were entangled in lines that were on the ground from a fallen pole. So to me, that seems that the drivers that are in their vehicles, they're not paying attention where they're going. They shouldn't be on the street anyway, and they're getting themselves entangled in power lines. So I think that everyone has to rethink this, getting in their vehicle and going out driving around and doing some sightseeing. There's nothing that's open, and there's nothing that's available, with the exception of possibly wanting to top off with gas, but there's nowhere to go. So these type of incidents are going to continue to occur, and they're going to become serious. And so I saw way too many cars on the streets today, and we just have to do a better job and be more vigilant and be compliant with our request. We still need time so that we can initiate this recovery, and it's important to us. We can't spend the entire day, like Sheriff Lapinto said, following up on calls that are being initiated or created by individuals who are careless. So please be compliant with our directives and stay off the street. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Our representative from Entergy, Mr. Patrick Hamby.
Thank you. Patrick Hamby on behalf of Entergy Louisiana. I'm going to start out with a couple of key points regarding our damage assessment and some of those results from a high-level standpoint, as it's still kind of an ongoing beginning phase. We've completed yesterday, day 1 of our damage assessment. At first daylight, we were out and assessing damages to see and get an inventory of what poles are down, how many spans of wires are down, how many transformers are down, all the associated equipment, cross arms, things like that. That's on our to-do list. We're checking that off. We're GPS coordinating it, making sure those locations of where the damages are documented. And the whole reason we do that is because if we don't know where the damages are, what the damages are, it's like trying to shoot in the dark. So we get that list compiled. We make sure that we get it on the right trucks with the right crews. Some are qualified to do certain work that others are not. So there's a big safety issue that has to be considered there too. It's all about an organized effort to make sure that this is done as safe as possible, not only for the public, but for our workers as well, and as efficient as possible. So please be patient as we do go through and take that inventory yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and into the next days. I'll touch a little bit on the damage assessment results to date. I mentioned it's fairly new. It's ongoing. Obviously, we have a way to go, but there are three general buckets that we look at, and generation is the first bucket, and there are a sequential three buckets. You have to have the first, which is generation, our power plants, operable before you're able to go anywhere. So the good news is we do not have any constraints with generation and power plant capacity. However, the next step is transmission lines. That's the high voltage lines that come directly out of the generating power plants. Those we do have damages on. Everyone, I'm sure, has heard or seen the river crossing structure right by the Avondale Fire Department. That, I think it was around 5:30. I got reports from the EOC from that fire department with a picture, and I believe there may have been some tornadic activity. I was talking to somebody in the elevator up here who's lost their girlfriend's total home, and it was right in that area. And this structure made it through Katrina. It's a sound structure that only a catastrophic hurricane coupled with tornadic activity could do this kind of damage. Shortly thereafter, I received the picture. Within an hour, it had collapsed and was on the floor. So that's just one example during the transmission damage assessment of something that did happen that is catastrophic. If you consider the region we're at, there are three main corridors that come into the greater New Orleans region, including Jefferson Parish and the whole basic southeast region over here. We have 8 transmission lines, and that was just one of them. The other 7 have damages as well, not as catastrophic as that, but we're in the process of evaluating all those damages on the transmission side. The third bucket is distribution. That is when the transmission lines, the high lines, come down into your neighborhoods, the wooden poles, the underground facilities serving small commercial businesses and neighborhoods. We're in the process. It's more of a tedious process. The transmission damage assessment can largely be done via helicopter. It's not necessarily running through neighborhoods. You're not having to, run into road hazards, and it's not as tedious as the distribution is when we have trees down on the ground. We have poles obviously down on the ground, and that's what we're counting is the poles as well as the trees, because we have to clear the trees. In most cases, the trees are entangled in our lines, so those have to be cleared and coordinated in order to get service restored. Thousands of poles have been identified as being down, and that again is on the distribution side. The transmission side, again, is ongoing. I will touch on the transmission tower that's down. I mentioned that there are 7 other lines out of 3 corridors. So just because that transmission tower is down does not mean that the power in this area and the area around that transmission structure that fell down will not have power until that is reconstructed. There are ways to reconfigure the transmission system via those other routes, presuming that they don't have damage, and reroute the power. Kind of like, putting a puzzle together just a little bit different to work your way around that damage. So that's the good news in that particular, with that particular failure. Another thing we have done, we're working hand in hand with the Emergency Operations Center team here, the United States Coast Guard, and the Army Corps of Engineers, because we want to make sure, number one, that line is safe. Nobody on the river traffic, the river's closed now, but that nobody gets hurt coming near that line. So what we've done, we've had multiple emails and a call today, and we have another planned call this afternoon, or this evening rather, after this press conference to talk about how to get that damaged wire out of the river so that we can open up the Mississippi River for commerce and relief traffic as well. So that is ongoing, and we're working hand in hand with multiple agencies. So I say all that. This is day 2. Typically in day 2, that's kind of where I would end my report. However, we do have a glimmer of light or hope, if you will. We sent a press release out. Some of the members here in the press may have it already. It was this evening. The first light is coming. Our target to the greater New Orleans region is to have first light, and it's limited, is coming tomorrow by midnight. So if you think about the path of Ida and where it went, Grand Isle's been mentioned quite a few times. That was a direct hit on the worst side of the storm, catastrophic damage, and then the storm, if you remember, bowed a little bit to the west and then curved back over to the northeast. So the least amount of damage in this area, in the greater New Orleans area, is on that eastern side of our grid, to the east of New Orleans, in that area, where when we're assessing these transmission lines, which ones can we bring on first and which ones need work before we're able to safely provide power via those lines. We found one, and we have actually two options if that one is not actually available after we do some more research on that. But we do have two options, definitely able to get first light by midnight tomorrow. We're going to get the New Orleans power station energized. We're going to step up. It's been explained to me as if you're going up steps, small steps. So you can bring on a little bit at a time because we do have damages and you don't want to overload the system, because if you do that, then you end up causing more damages than good. So we're working on that by midnight tomorrow. What that means is in New Orleans, we're going to start with the New Orleans power station and then work our way west over to the 9 Mile unit right here in Jefferson Parish and build off of that. And when I say first light, again, I'm going to go back. It's limited power. We're going to be able to work with the critical infrastructure such as hospitals, other critical infrastructure, and that's all contingent on if they do not have damages to the distribution feeders leading up to their facilities. And we're doing stringent engineering studies to make sure that we don't try to bring on electricity to a damaged feeder that may actually backfire and cause more damage to the system. So it's a methodical process, but it's here and it's the first sign of hope. So what I can say about Orleans is where we're going to start. I mentioned that's the side with the least amount of damages, and we're coming in that way and working our way to the west to close that loop over there by the 9 Mile power unit. The prep work that we're doing here, though, in the meantime, in Jefferson Parish, you'll notice it if you're over there in Kenner by the levee. We had 12 poles down, serves a hospital. We've been doing prep work, setting new poles, getting everything ready. So when that transmission does come over here, we're able to heat up things a little bit quicker, electrify things a little bit quicker. So we're doing a lot of prep work for our critical facilities as we speak. So I know the most important answer to the question that everybody wants, to hear is, when are we going to hear estimated restoration times? So beyond what I've told you about the first light from the New Orleans power station and then working west to 9 Mile, we won't really have a good hold on estimated power restoration times until the next day or two. And as that information becomes available, I'll be here to disseminate it to everyone. I will start with the parish, the Emergency Operations Center. We'll let the press, our customers, everybody know. As soon as we know, you will know. And the way that works, we'll have a broader region of the parish, more of an area, not really, you can't go house by house by house by house at this point, but then after days of more work is done and we've cleared more room, we will get granular and get down to the neighborhood level, then down to the street level, and then down to the individual home level. It just takes time. It's a methodical, tedious process. So I'll close it with a couple different things. What Sheriff Lapinto said and Joe Valiente from the EOC said, please stay off the streets. If you stay off the streets, not only are you helping your own safety, you're keeping the roads open and allowing our crews to move freely, which means they can move quicker, which means you can get your lights on faster. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. It is unfortunate that we did not have more time for people to evacuate. It is great that people are taking time now that the roads are open and getting out of town to a safe, more comfortable spot. I would advise that if you have the means to do that. Also, obviously, down power lines, they're everywhere. And I mentioned this before the storm. Don't take it upon yourself to try and judge whether it's energized. I know power is out, whether it's Cox, whether it's AT&T, but you think the power is out and everything is de-energized. That may not be the case. We have a lot of people that are putting generators on their homes and their businesses, and everyone may not do it appropriately, they may not follow the directions, and we may have some backfeed from those generators that goes back onto what people think are not live down power wires. However, because of that backflow and that faulty installation of 1, 2, 3, however many generators in the area, you will have live wires, and if you touch them, you will potentially have a fatality on your hands. So please stay away from down power lines. Call 1-800-ENERGY and let us know about that. So that is the report I have for day 2, and I look forward to more progress and better reports for day 3, 4, 5, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Mark Drews has been very busy with his crews today, so I'm going to let him give you his update, our Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to start with the water system. We'll start on the East Bank. As of this afternoon, we had isolated, which means we had shut off via valves 70 locations where we have water breaks. We had completed repairs on 17 of those, and hopefully when I get a report tonight, those numbers will increase. By doing that, we were able to pump approximately a pressure of 22 PSI on the East Bank, which means that the majority of the parish has low pressure water. Typical pressure in our system is around 65 to 70 PSI. And hopefully each day as we progress outward from the plant on Jefferson Highway and address more breaks, we can increase that pressure and hopefully get even increased pressure through most of the East Bank. With regard to the West Bank, we have far less breaks. We have been able to maintain about 40 PSI through our system. However, we have 3 generators that run our pumps on the West Bank. Twice already, we have had one of those generators spike, which caused all 3 generators to temporarily go out. It took us approximately 15 minutes to restore them. And unfortunately, right before we started this conference, I had another outage that hopefully they've already restored. But the good news is we did receive that generator that Steve Scalise had told you about. It is now on site, so hopefully we can replace that one generator we had issues with and get that done tomorrow. So each day we will keep restoring more breaks, and hopefully, again, we can increase that pressure on the East Bank, but it will be a long process before we can restore the entire system. With regard to sewer, as the parish president said, it's incredibly important that you try to conserve water that's going down the drains. Our 5 treatment plants are operating, okay, because they're on generator power. The problem is of course, we have 530 lift stations with no power to them. So as of today, using portable pumps and portable generators, I have 18 out of 270 operational on the East Bank. I have 13 out of 260 operational on the West Bank. So again, these are not ideal conditions, and we will undoubtedly have some overflows in our system over time. We do have 15 tanker trucks that we can send to those lift stations to empty them. Okay, that's obviously not enough. We do have others en route from Houston. So we will increase those numbers over time. I also have 40 additional generators/pumps that we will be installing over the next couple of days. But again, we will have way too many lift stations with no power. So again, the only way we will restore that system is when we actually get electricity to it. With regard to drainage, our drainage system on both the East Bank and West Bank are 100% operational. Today we were down in Lafitte, and we were able to start that process of restoring pumps in Lafitte. With regard to our streets, our Parkways Division we've basically made passable our major thoroughfares in the parish, with the exception of locations that have energy entanglements or utilities. We've secured those with barricades as best we could, but it's still very dangerous out there. So we were able actually to get into our residential neighborhoods today and make passable an additional 63 streets. We have a number of streets with trees down, and some places where dead ends occur, residents can't get out. So we're addressing that now. And basically that gives you a summary of the major work that we've done to this point.
Thank you so much, Mark. Sarah Babcock is our Chief Administrative Assistant. She deals with a lot of public health issues, so she's also been very busy today, so Sarah's our next speaker. And Councilman Templet is back from Grand Isle, so I want to introduce Councilman Templet too.
Good evening. Just like everyone else, we've had a busy day with our healthcare facilities. So today we spent a lot of the day working on doing things like topping off generators at our nursing homes and our hospitals. We also evacuated a number of facilities. So the Lake Town Village Assisted Living and Memory Care Facility in Kenner evacuated to their sister facilities. Half of those residents went to Texas and half went to Mississippi. We also evacuated Westminster Tower, Windhoven, and Metairie Manor, which are elderly independent living facilities. 100 residents from Westminster Tower, 54 from Windhoven, and 48 from Metairie Manor. They are all relocated to Alexandria. In addition to that, through the PARD playgrounds, we evacuated 71, was the last count I got. That was not the final count, and I will try and get those numbers for you later tonight. But at least 71 went through PARD. So these are individuals who are living in their homes, needed assistance getting out. If you are one of those people where you need help, you are tired of staying there, maybe you have medical concerns and need transportation, please call us at 504-349-5360. Our transit teams are picking people up. They begin early in the morning, kind of go to mid-afternoon. At that point in time, we are transporting people up to Alexandria for now until that shelter is full, and then we'll move to another one. Then anyone who comes in the evening will kind of spend the night and get transported out the next day. As it's been mentioned, 911 is getting increasingly busy. Our ambulance services are extremely busy, and our hospital emergency rooms are backing up. You all know that our hospitals were full before this incident happened. Then we had multiple hospitals in Region 3 evacuate into our hospitals here in Jefferson and Orleans parishes, and now we have more people trying to get in. With that, we also do not have enough ambulances right now. They are so busy doing 911 calls that I can't use any of those ambulances to transport bedridden people up to Alexandria. So we're having a little delay in getting those people up, but we're continuing to maintain contact with them. So I just want to remind and urge everyone that to please be safe, please stay home, do not get injured, and because those are critical resources that we are having shortages of right now. I'm also trying to discharge a lot of hospital patients who no longer need to be in the hospital into those shelters. And so we're working really hard to do that. But again, it's critical for you to stay home and stay safe. In addition, we were able to open 4 dialysis clinics here in Jefferson Parish and 4 in Orleans. If you are a dialysis patient, your normal scheduled appointment no longer stands. You need to contact your company's emergency numbers, and we will work to assist you with transportation here through our EOC, not through your normal paratransit phone number. We also, our hospitals are starting to open up some of their outpatient pharmacies, and we are expecting some of the CVS and Walgreens pharmacies to begin opening tomorrow. So we know hospital is the most critical medical care, then dialysis. Now it is getting people the medications that they need. So we're working hard to get those open as well. Throughout the past few days, we've had oxygen distribution available at Fire Station 20 at 4110 Hudson Street in Metairie and Fire Station 81 at 808 MacArthur Avenue in Harvey. As of right this moment, we are currently out of oxygen tanks. We have been out for about 2 hours, but there is a truck expected to be here within the next few hours to deliver that. So we should be operational again tomorrow, and we have already started ordering more oxygen for the next few days so that we hopefully will not experience a delay in this again. Finally, I just want to put out some reminders I've been giving you for the last few days because they're just really important things. One, generator safety. Again, please allow generators to fully cool before you add more fuel. Keep them outside, keep them away from doors, windows, and AC units. We are under a boil water advisory, and no one has power to boil water right now. So it's really important, while a healthy adult may not be impacted that much by the water, someone who's immunocompromised or who is an infant or small child, they really are. So they really need to be drinking bottled water at the moment. Again, I said last night, we are nearing the end of the time for it to be safe to eat the food that was in your fridge. So please be careful. And, as mentioned, we're trying to get other stations, pod sites set up in the next day. Finally, I will just mention again, we have a 24/7 crisis line. This is Spirit Louisiana phone line through the Louisiana Department of Health. If you are having mental health needs, that number is 1-800-256-2522. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I know our first responders are stretched to the max. They have been working so very hard. Our Chief of East Bank Consolidated Fire Chief David Tibbetts, and then Councilman Brian Adams is still in Grand Isle? Or?
Brian Adams is back.
Okay. Okay. Brian Adams is in the building, but he's not up here with us. So our Chief of East Bank Consolidated Fire Chief Dave Tibbetts.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank the members of the East Bank Consolidated Fire Department and members of all the fire departments in Jefferson Parish for the hard work that's going on. We continue to support the missions that are given to us from the EOC in Gretna, as well as we have our own Emergency Operations Center in the fire department itself that we are using to support the missions that we see are needed for the people in this area from the storm. In emergency response, we have a way we look at things. We look at what's in front of us, and we ask ourselves, where were we before, and where will we be in the future? And one of the places we'll be in the future is I understand, and I'm fully support the fact that we need to ask you, please, if you can, stay out and stay off the streets. We understand that there will be more people coming on the streets, trucks that are going to help us remove trees. The Entergy folks are going to be coming in and taking care of our electrical needs and stuff like that. So there are going to be people creeping in and coming in that need to be here. What we're asking is what we'll see in that, when I said that future part, people are going to come in and their stove may not work right. They want to start, maybe we see situations where they barbecue to cook, and that we all do that. But again, just when you start to do these things, even though this is an emergency, follow the guidelines that we normally do. I'm excited that people get up and talk about generators. Maybe I'll get everybody to say a little something one day about it. But I continue to say that. Please use it as manufacturer's recommendation. We still are responding to carbon monoxide alarms going off. We're responding to sick people who we have we find out when we get there or in the process of having being poisoned by carbon monoxide. So it's a real situation. The other thing I just want to touch on with the natural gas situation, people are coming home, they have a gas leak, the gas is being turned off, and then they turn it back on. That's a very dangerous thing to do. So if the authorities come by, and Atmos or gas companies or fire or emergency services come by, there's a reason they're doing what they're doing. Please, stick with that and try not to change the way things are going. We don't want any of those accidents to occur. We are remaining pretty busy with responses. And my last example will be this. They mentioned a car going into a tree that had wires involved. We have to stop what we're doing. We have to go to that incident. We have to stop at the incident to wait for Energy to come tell us the wire's dead. They have to stop what they're doing in our reparation and repairs. it's just a cycle that's going to cause a bigger thing for someone who probably, maybe not had a reason even to be out there. So continue to be safe. We're going to continue our mission. It's an honor to be here with all these folks behind me. We have a great team here, and we'll continue to help you as we go along. Thank you very much.
Okay, from Grand Isle, he was assigned to go to Grand Isle today, so our Director of the West Bank Fire Services, Brian Adams.
Thank you, ma'am. So we just got back from a trip to Grand Isle, and I can tell you, I've led the recovery in Grand Isle for probably the last 15 years after hurricanes, and I can tell you I've never seen it look like this. It's decimated. Probably 40, maybe 50% of the houses or the camps on Grand Isle are gone. They've been knocked off the pillars. They've just been destroyed. There's probably about 3 feet of sand on the road, which is pretty normal. Power poles are all down. But for the most part, 100% of the camps that are damaged at some point. And the people are very sad. A lot of people have lost their homes, talking about they don't know whether they'll be able to go back or not because they don't have the money to go back, can't afford to go back. So it was a pretty sad day, but the people of Grand Isle are very, very, very resilient, and the mayor and I had a very good conversation. I'm going to go back in a couple of days and begin the process of rebuilding Grand Isle for those folks. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of hard work to do. It's very hot. It'll take a long time, but it's probably going to be a 3 or 5 year process, putting it back to where it was. So, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we're honored to have many of our council members here who want to address you on their efforts today, so we'll start with our chairman, Councilman Scott Walker.
Thank you, Madam President. And we drove around the parish a good bit today, and I'll just reiterate that there are so many trees down and so many road obstacles and so much debris, power lines that have intertwined with trees and there are branches hanging on power lines, and it's really not safe. So if you can avoid it, please do so at all costs. The rest of what I'm going to say only focuses on some weird things that happened at my house today that I think can apply to you all. Some things that you may not think about when you go and check on your property. I have a small vent that faces the street, one of those decorative attic vents that is on the second story and looks out to the street. Well, a lot of wind-driven rain came into the attic from outside and got some of the blow-in insulation very wet. So make sure you go up in your attic and not only check for wet spots on the wood in the attic, but look at the insulation and look at things that could have blown in from other spots, because that insulation, had not gotten it out today, could have quickly gotten moldy, and that mold could have spread to other things. There was a puddle in my refrigerator, in my freezer, because the things that were in there, it was time to go. If we were at this point now, if you have anything in your refrigerator, it's not going to be good anymore. It's past that point. The ice in the ice maker melts and drips. If you didn't empty your ice maker, you're going to have a puddle in your freezer. If you didn't get the things out that are going to stink, you're going to have a lot of stink in your fridge. Some of you have lived this before. I mean, you understand what this is like from dealing with it after Katrina. But just those little things, pieces of debris in the yard that were carried from somewhere else that have nails in them, pieces of wood with nails sticking up. There's so many little obstacles around the house that you're not even thinking about when you're going back to just try and get a few things and secure a few things. But the biggest thing to me was the water in the attic. Even though there were no yellow spots on my ceilings that had come down from the attic itself was wet because of water that came in from the outside during the storm. So check your attics and see if anything else is coming down from above. That's all I got. That's the public safety tips for the day from the Walker household in Metairie after I checked it out. Thank you. I'll check other attics for a fee. They're hot.
Now Scott's got me coming from Grand Isle going in my attic when I get home, so thank you, Scott. Thank you. Councilman Ricky Templet, at large, Division A. I just got back from Grand Isle as well. I basically want to make sure I say thank you to the administration as well as Brian Adams. We had a little caravan that went down there with a mission to bring supplies to Grand Isle, which no one has been able to do till today. The island is basically isolated. We were able to bring some water, some type of foods, and radio communication. Right now, communication is the key to all of what we're doing, and we're all having trouble with cell phone towers and cell phone communications. We departed this morning around 9:30. It took us till 1:30 to actually get on the island. Part of the problem is you've heard everyone say stay off of the roads. The roads are crowded with people sightseeing or not going anywhere, but just take a ride around, or maybe trying to get fuel for their car where they shouldn't be going anywhere. That impeded our opportunity to get down to Grand Isle to service those people. So please stay off the streets. One of the first things when you get to Grand Isle, if anyone is attempting, which they shouldn't, there are a lot of power lines down, a lot of telephone poles down, and there is Highway 1 from Fouchon to the island is some roadway washed out, very unsafe to travel. When you get to the island, one of the issues we saw was total devastation on the Chenier. There are whole blocks that are gone, nothing but pilings from the roadway, Highway 1 to the bayou. It's very heartbreaking to see what has taken place there. On the island itself, just like Mr. Brian Adams stated, there's about 3 feet of sand covering the whole highway of Highway 1 crossing from the Gulf to the bay. We have probably 15 breaches in the Burrito Levee that actually we need to look at addressing rapidly because it was still in storm season. You heard that there's about 40% of the structures damaged. Gone. 100% of the structures damaged. But I'm happy to say, as of now, no reported loss of life. That is impressive, ladies and gentlemen, because in that storm of a Category 4, with having 60-plus people stay on that island, and as of now, no reports of anyone losing their life, I think it's a great news out of all of this. Look, we are monitoring Grand Isle. Mayor Commodell, we spoke with him. They are not letting anyone enter the island at this time. It is not habitable right now. We do not have power. We don't have running water. Without running water, we don't have fire safety. Please do not attempt to go to the island. You can look on Facebook. Jefferson Parish is going to be posting some video. We have drone video as well as pictures that we took while we were there. Hopefully you can spot your home or your camp if you have one there in one of these videos. But do not attempt to go to Grand Isle. Please let our first responders, please let Entergy do their job. I gotta say this once again, it's very heartbreaking to see what has taken place amongst our whole parish, but Grand Isle took the brunt of this storm, and I've never seen the devastation like this in Jefferson Parish before. And thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Van Vranken, Council District 5, which is the Metairie area from the New Orleans Parish line west. I'll just tell you again, I spent the day, Sarah Babcock passed along lists to each of us in our districts, and those lists are people that have special needs. They may be in their 90s at home. They really can't stand 2 or 3 weeks or whatever the restoration will be in the heat. Some who are bedridden. And so as I went to each of those houses, I thought, again, we're fortunate if we are able-bodied and can get around. If you have someone in your neighborhood that is older, that falls in that category, that may have some limited mobility or is older in age, please call us, because we do as a parish have the ability to even pick them up at their home, take them to Alexandria, Louisiana, where they will have water, food, shelter, air, medical attention. So it just really, we have those resources. So if you're listening to this, I know a lot of folks don't have cable, don't have the ability on Wi-Fi, so it's just a lot by radio right now. If you're listening and there's someone in your neighborhood that is older or falls in that category, please call the number you've heard all night. It's 349-5360. Yeah, I know it by heart now. 349-5360. And I want to say there were several tremendous neighbors out already helping. So Jefferson Parish is phenomenal. And I'm very thankful that we have the kind of community that looks after each other. So call that number, the 349-5360. If you have someone that you know is in that category, let us help them. Let us get them out of here, because it's just not really the place to be for the next few weeks. As I drove around visiting each of those homes, and I had Representative Polly Thomas with me, we saw 2 accidents. And then as we got to one of the fire station, they were going out on a call. So I think if you haven't been out on the roadway yet, what you may not realize is you're looking at down wires, you're looking at tree branches. There are no traffic signals. You know, most of our signs got blown away. So you will be more distracted than I think you realize, and that's causing accidents. And then not only are people's lives at risk, but then you're sidetracking our efforts. You're sidetracking our first responders and our efforts at power restoration. So please stay home if you don't have to go anywhere. I do know, as we've said, people are running out of refrigerated goods now that the power has been out the length of time it is. I know some of our grocery stores are open. I know more will be opening tomorrow. So please, if you're going to those limited locations, go back home and be careful and be very mindful on your way. I know others have called all day long. I don't have food. I don't have water. I don't have ice. I need a tarp. And again, that is what we've spent the bulk of the day, too, working on today to make sure those supplies get here. I'm anticipating, what I've understood is maybe tomorrow, that we'll start distributing those. So we hear those. We are working on those things. That is what everybody needs. And the last thing I'll say is, if you have a tank of gas, use it to get out of town, because it is going to be a miserable few weeks. You may be having your generator run right now. That generator is not going to run forever. In fact, we had to add oil to the one that we have at our home today. So I don't know how many days that is, but if you have a tank of gas, get out of town. If you're listening to this out of town, stay there. Do not come back. There's no cell service, no Wi-Fi, no water. There's nothing to come back to right now, so stay where you are. It's not a good situation, and so if we can ask you to abide by those things, it will help us all recover all the faster.
We've accomplished quite a bit today. We've helped a lot of people, and we will continue to. But what I'm particularly excited about is that I received a text message from a lady by the name of Ms. Lily Shropshire, who's a local teacher. And Ms. Lily is one of those people who did not have the means to be able to leave. And so we have a lot of people here in this parish whom will be here with us and cannot leave because of certain conditions. And so what I'm excited about is that Ms. Lily had asked me, can you get me some ice? And so tomorrow we will have at the Lario Center MRE food, water, ice, as well as other things that will be beneficial to the needs of the public who will be here. We will have that at the Lario Center. We'll be offering at the Lario Center to our residents, and east of the Harvey Canal, it would be over at Helen Cox School. Not tomorrow? Not tomorrow? Okay. Tomorrow, no. Well, come in soon. Ms. Lily, I'll get you some ice. And the other locations where it'll be coming to is Bright and... Not tomorrow, but Shrine on Airline. Shrine on Airline. It's coming. Ms. Lily, I'll get you that ice. Thank you.
Dominic Impastato, Councilman for District 4, the Metairie and Kenner area. A few things I want to touch on, in particular, as the people before me stated, there will be relief provided starting tomorrow by way of MREs, which is, of course, limited disaster-related food service, ice, and water. That will also start, I just left Mayor Zahn in the city of Kenner, that will also start in the city of Kenner, being distributed at Esplanade Mall starting tomorrow afternoon as well. The city of Kenner, if you're a Kenner resident, city of Kenner will post the details of their relief as well. Mayor Zahn asked me to make sure we got that out. One of the biggest questions we got in our office today had to do with the availability of FEMA tarps. As you heard earlier from earlier speakers, the Blue Roof program is a FEMA program, not
a parish program. So as many of us remember from Katrina, the ability to call someone and have them come out and install your blue roof, that is currently not up and running by the federal government yet. We're optimistic that it will be. At this time, however, the parish does have a limited number of FEMA tarps available, that if you contact your council office, we can help get those tarps to you. You then have to get someone to install it and affix it to your own roof. That's a limited supply that's been accumulated over the last several years, but if you contact your council office until those run out, we can get those to you, and we will. Today, my office distributed somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 of those. Additionally, as has been stated before, to give you an idea of what it's like to live here, they talked about the lines at the gas station. We literally calculated today in my office as we were driving, the lines at the gas station were anywhere from half a mile to a mile long, with another 50 to 100 people standing at the pumps waiting to fill 5-gallon gas tanks. So, I mean, that is not just a long wait at the gas station. That is an extensive amount of time, which makes it very, very difficult to live here and do the things that we need to do at this present point in time. The last thing I'd like to touch on is the water issue. If you live in North Metairie, Metairie from Transcontinental through the end of Kenner, it is trickling back on, literally trickling back on slowly but surely. Certain neighborhoods are seeing greater water pressure, others are not. So if you're looking at this trying to make a decision, do I come back? The answer is still, our best recommendation is please wait, because we cannot guarantee when that will happen. And as you heard the report from Entergy, Entergy really cannot even give us a good indication of when we can expect power. So if you don't need to be here, please give it some time before you come back. But other than that, I want to make a final comment about the resiliency and the commitment to return that our community clearly has. When you drive around, we saw some amazing things today. People getting the debris out of their front lawns immediately, some even cutting their grass immediately while there's no power inside. There is a commitment to return in this community that is absolutely noteworthy and significant, and it is the reason we will return to prominence once again. There is no question. And lastly, our first responders today, Councilman Bonanno and I were the beneficiaries. A local restaurant come back in on West Metairie decided they wanted to cook food for our first responders, and so we were able to distribute to our fire departments on the East Bank food to them while they're performing search and rescue. That's the kind of stuff that's going on parish-wide. So if you are here and you have an opportunity to do something good for our first responders, relief workers, everyone around you, just your neighbor next door, do it. And that's what Jefferson Parish has done historically and will continue to do. And that's why this continues to be such a great place to work and to live. Thank you.
I think I said it wrong last time. Thank you, Councilman Impastato. I neglected to thank Arthene for being here from the Deaf Action Center, so thank you, Arthene. Is that everybody? Everybody spoke? Okay. Do we have any questions? No? A lot of information. You can see how hard we've been working across government. So thank you so much for being with us this evening.